Thank you so much, Brother Leslie, for that wonderful introduction and the warm welcome tonight. And we can begin by chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, welcome everyone. I come to you humbly and just really, so blessed and very, very honored to be here. And thank you for coming on a rainy night and on a Tuesday night as well. And as Brother Leslie had mentioned, my formal bio, please kind of scrap that. I'm really, I'm a layperson. I come to you first and foremost as a practitioner of the Buddha Dhamma. And I am a student that has been guided by my teacher, Thanissaro Bhikkhu, and many other teachers as well. So I'm sharing based on the teachings of my teacher, also along with some other voices as well. And I'm sharing here ultimately as a layperson, from the perspective of being someone who is a part of this world and being a practitioner of the Dhamma that has really changed my life. And what's unique here is I come to you from the Philippines, which is a predominantly Catholic country. So I don't know, for some reason, ever since I was 16 years old, there was this voice in the back of my mind that I had to find Buddhism. And it took many years, but I did find it in the Theravada tradition. So I would love to speak to you about dwelling in the heavenly abodes, which are the Brahma Viharas. And yes, of course, the heavenly realms would be beautiful to really dwell in, but we are in the human world. We're on earth. We're in the human realms. And so for me, it's more about how do we cultivate that sense of heaven here on earth, as what Bhante Pemaratana also messaged me today as well when he wished me well for this talk this evening. So I will begin with a slideshow, and just to give a little bit of a background, these words come mostly from my teacher, so please, you might notice that the translation is different from what you're familiar with, and so just so that you know that this comes from Thanissaro Bhikkhu's translations. So the sublime attitudes, or what are called the Brahma Viharas, are the Buddha's primary heart teachings, the ones that connect most directly with our desire for true happiness. And they're the qualities of the heart that motivated the Buddha to find awakening and then to teach the path of awakening to others. The joy, the bliss that he felt, and that wanting, out of his own heart and his compassion, to want to share it, to reduce the suffering of the people around him and not only keep it to himself. So the term Brahma Vihara literally means the dwelling place of the Brahmas. And the Brahmas are beings who live in the higher heavens or the heavenly realms, and they dwell in an attitude of unlimited goodwill or loving kindness, as it's sometimes called, unlimited compassion, unlimited empathetic joy. Sometimes that's also called sympathetic joy, and unlimited equanimity. These unlimited attitudes also can be said that their positive emotions can be developed. And for the path to thrive, they have to be developed from the more limited versions of these emotions that we normally experience in the human heart. Limiting emotions that come from the defilements even. Anger, aversion, hatred. And there's also the clinging and the desire that comes from greed. And then the confusion that we feel when there's delusion or ignorance present for us in our experience. So we are asked to really cultivate, because these are not just available to us all the time, but because the world that we live in don't necessarily give the conditions for us to have that accessible, we're mostly being exposed to stress, irritation, pain, and heartbreak. And especially in the past few years, it's just been a lot of uncertainty, and that brings up fear. And that's been very hard for all of us. And if we had the tools and the skills, all those years to actually know that this can be developed, even though times are hard right now, I can still go into the depths of my heart, the qualities of the heart, that I can cultivate more kindness and compassion, some harmony, balance, although that's a little bit hard to achieve most times because of the impermanence that we're always experiencing. And then also joy. So of these four attitudes, goodwill or loving kindness or metta is the most fundamental. It's a wish for true happiness, both for yourself and for others. We will do some formal meditation, metta bhavana, after a bit of our discussion tonight. Because the highest level of true happiness comes from within, your true happiness need not conflict with that of anyone else. So it's not reliant on our external circumstances, because this is something that we can develop from within us. And when we're able to find that true happiness, then that's also upekkha, or the equanimity, can be very present. So these Brahma Viharas, or these heart qualities, don't come in as a linear experience or teaching. I find them to be very circular. And that means that it can happen at the same time, or they're dependent on each other. So we will demonstrate that here. So, and also it doesn't mean that when other people around you are happy, doesn't mean that there's less happiness for yourself. In fact, the happier people are around you, the happier you can be, and vice versa. The more that we cultivate our own happiness, the more happy people can be around us. And it's the other way around. If we're caught up in anger, we're a little tight or constricted, or irritable, mostly at home, and we're miserable, then for sure the people in our homes or the ones that are living with us are also going to be miserable. So we have a choice. What are we going to cultivate, and how are we going to live our lives? So thus, goodwill can be extended to all beings without contradiction or hypocrisy. That means that this cultivation of our heart qualities, we can wish for ourselves, toward people that we love, and then toward people who we don't know very well, people that let's say we go to a store, the market, there's a person that we often go to. We don't know them very well, but we can also cultivate this loving kindness and send them this metta as well, and they don't have to know it. Then we can, little by little, as we progress in the practice, we can bring in people who are challenging, and you might be able to think of one or maybe more people in your life that are challenging to send this kindness and this goodwill to. And then after that, we send it to all beings everywhere without exception. So as we cultivate this, we can really do it with authenticity, this genuine wish for the well-being of others. And I think it's because we are dependent on one another. And I think that is reflected also on the compassion as well in the practice, because when we know that someone is suffering, we can't separate ourselves from that, especially when our loved ones are having a hard time. We feel that too. Compassion or karuna is what grows out of this goodwill or this loving kindness when you see the suffering that others are experiencing and you want the suffering to stop. Compassion is very different, or it's another step beyond empathy. The empathy is being able to put yourself in another's shoes and get a sense of what they're feeling, but we take it a step further with compassion, that there is this desire to help, even if it means to wish them better, for the suffering to end for them. And there is this engagement that's happening. There's action involved with compassion, whereas with empathy, it's more just, oh, I feel you. I can put myself in your shoes because I've perhaps been there before, or I can imagine what it feels like for you, and it ends there. But with compassion, there is this engaging in the world with the life of others and wanting to change something for them so that they can really, that suffering will end. And Brother Billy has been doing a lot of this compassionate work in my country as well, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to be able to express that. And you need equanimity to strengthen this endurance when you're meeting with difficulties. So sometimes you need to make sacrifices in the course of striving for happiness. So in this way, equanimity doesn't feel cold-hearted or indifferent. And the reason why it can be perceived as cold-hearted is because when people misunderstand equanimity as, okay, well, it is what it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. Or that you're so balanced in a way that it just seems like there's no emotion involved on being equanimous. But in my own personal practice, that's not the case at all. The more that I am connected to my experience, and the more that I connect with my heart, and then also the more I have a tendency to connect with the people around me. And the more that I'm connected with my experience, the more I feel. It doesn't mean that emotions go away when you have this experience of equanimity. Quite the opposite, at least in my own experience. I feel a bit more, but then no matter what's happening in life, whether it's challenging or there's complications or even loss of people that I love, there's pain there. Because I realize that no matter how much I prepare myself for losing people that I love, there's still a lot of pain in my heart. It breaks my heart. But still, I know that it's impermanent, whatever I'm feeling. And then I can come back to that and still have that balance where I can still meet the world the way that it is. That means that I don't lock myself in a dark room and I get stuck there for about a month, maybe 3 months, and then I feel sorry for myself. I still know that I can be a part of the world despite the fact that I'm having a hard time. I can still engage. And then when there's joy as well, I don't just ignore everything that's going on in my life and then party all night, or I know that there's still work that needs to be done. So that balance that upekkha or equanimity brings as well. So it's not cold-hearted. It doesn't mean that you become, one of the students at MMC had said, does that mean that you just become a zombie and you're non-feeling whatsoever when you're equanimous? And I had that same question myself when I started to practice. I thought, well, I'm a mother. How do I discipline my children? If I'm so equanimous, how do I teach them what's right and wrong if I don't feel some emotions, but if they do something that is against the values that I hold and that I would like to pass on to them? It's still possible to be engaged in the world, and all the more because you're so connected through your practice of mindfulness and also even the cultivation of these heart qualities of the Brahma Viharas. So happiness and sorrow are dependent on our present moment. It's not just the past. So we think, okay, well, my happiness relies on the conditions that I created in the past. That's my karma. And see, the thing is our intention right now will dictate how much happiness we are to experience, even right here, right now in this present moment. So it's with mindfulness and knowing, where am I directing my attention toward? Very often you will find most normal human beings will notice what's going wrong. That's where our attention will gravitate to. We're always looking for the problem. We're always thinking, we're always feeling like there's a threat. There's this stress response or reactivity that we're always looking, okay, well, what's gonna come up from the darkness that's gonna surprise me now? How do I prepare? And so we're always worried about what's gonna come. Very often these worries don't actually come about, but we're in this mode of looking for what's going wrong, and then we're not happy right now. So when we have also this presence of mind through developing mindfulness with our meditation practice, we can redirect our attention to what's going well. It's not easy in the beginning because our minds are so used to looking for what's going wrong. And that's not our fault because our brains are trained to be that way. Our brains have not evolved enough since thousands of years ago when we were always looking out for what animal is going to jump out from the darkness to eat us. And our frontal lobe is really just starting to evolve now. And this is where all of these practices reside. Very often, though, when there's this experience of threat, whether real or imagined, we're always going to be in this tight, constricted experience because we think that there's something that's going to threaten us. And that is really the function of the brain. It's to protect us. But through the practices, we're able to bypass the limbic system where we're this fight or flight or freeze mode and go straight here to this place where we can be more skillful and be more awake so that we can, this moment, make the choice. Do we pay attention to what's going wrong? Or should we shift it and even simply just stop for a moment and check in to see what's happening in your body? Look around at your environment. Take a few breaths. Feel your feet grounding and touching the floor. And then maybe even when things might be a little stressful, that moment when you check in and connect with your present moment, you might say, okay, well, actually, I'm okay. I'm okay right now. There's nothing wrong. That's a way for us to switch to what's going right and then cultivate a bit more of that happiness rather than the fear and the worry. So it's right now. It's right now that we can create those conditions for now and the future. So if everything depended on our past actions, we and all other beings would simply be passive victims. Or we are beneficiaries of forces that we don't have control over. I played a victim for a really, really long time. A victim of my circumstances, or I just don't have enough. There's this sense of lack. This fear of not having enough, or this fear of not being able to meet the needs of my family, or the victim of, oh, I was so oppressed, But then through this practice, I was able to switch and see that, no, I don't have to play small. It's not necessary because it's not conducive for my own health, not my emotional health, my mental health, which ultimately also dictates my physical well-being. Because what my mind is thinking, my body is also listening to, and it will respond in that way. So say, for example, you're always anxious because you're always worrying about something. Maybe because you are the man of the house, that there's this fear of losing your livelihood, thinking that you might not be able to support your family at a certain time. There's a lot of pressure for our male species, for our men. There's a lot of pressure, and they don't get enough credit for what they do in their lives to support their families. And then there's also for women who are constantly putting themselves last. I'll do everything for everyone else and never mind me. And then there's this burnout that happens. And then it can create a lot of tension in the home because you're not communicating, right? So let's say that there's that happening. And without this presence of knowing what your experience is in this moment, you can't make those changes. You'll always be the victim, and then it's a perpetual cycle. The home will be unhappy. And then there's also this experience of wanting to control everything. And we think we have everything under control, and then the moment that things fall apart. I mean, the past couple of years or 3 years was a great example of that. We worked so hard to put our lives in order somehow. I'm gonna work really hard so that I can get my promotion, or I'll just do really well at work, or here I am, I'm planning my vacation of my dreams. And then suddenly, everything is shut down. And then we're all caught up in this fear of getting sick, fear of losing our loved ones, and many of us did, including myself. Yeah. And I still feel that the pain in my heart of having had lost someone. And then we realized that moment, I'm not in control. And then when we realize that we're not in control, we think that there's no way that we're ever going to be happy, because then it's like, that's it. I might as well just let go of everything. What's the point? But we do have the control of how we respond, no matter the situation. We have this capacity to develop these heart qualities. The capacity to also cultivate more mindfulness, to be more awake, and not play the victim. Our intentions play a crucial role in determining whether we're going to experience mental pleasure or pain, now or in the future. So these practices can lead to true happiness, no matter what is happening in life. The past few years, or I don't even know how many years, it's because those 2 weeks that they said that they were going to take to keep it under control lasted more than, it's 2 years? And, we're still there, right? We're still trying to get our bearings back. But to tell you the truth, I was really happy being stuck at home, because that meant that I didn't have to deal with so much traffic, and my life didn't change very much because I was a homebody anyway. But I missed my social life, my friends, and but still it was like, time to breathe. Time to stop. Time to tend to all of the things that I have pushed aside because life was so busy that I couldn't get to them. So now let's see what it is that I can take care of little by little. Yeah, absolutely. Time to reflect. How do I live my life now? And I think it was a real blessing for everybody. After some time now, we can be like, actually that wasn't so bad after all. Phew, thank goodness. Can we get that back? I think now there's so much traffic, let's bring it back. How do we do that again? So we could have spent those times not getting so caught up in fear and worry, and just said, these are the good things. Let's think about those. And let's really, with our wise action, move toward that. And then we can also encourage others to develop these similar attitudes. And then it will have a great effect on their lives also. And you don't necessarily have to go around and start giving a lecture to everyone that you meet and say, I'm happy because I did this, and you should too. That's not how we do it. We're happy because we're happy, and we show people and we live it. And this is my message, actually. How do we dwell in these attitudes or these experiences of the heavens here on earth? Because who's Buddhist in this room? Sometimes we idealize the very strict aspect of the teachings. The concentration. I must be very well concentrated and move toward Nibbana by hook and by crook. Get real serious about our practice, that we forget that there is a softness that needs to be developed through these heart qualities as well. The wisdom paired with that compassion, so that we're not working so hard all the time that we become stiff and rigid and closed. Because sometimes when we're that way, we start to judge other people because they're not practitioners. Their values are not the same as us. So the invitation is to bring in more of these heart qualities. Yes, that's the tough part, but we can develop these heart qualities even when it feels like it's mechanical. We can pretend just by reciting the phrases of metta or chanting the Metta Sutta. Or I'd like to ask you, if you can bring your voices in, what are the ways that you feel happy? What brings you happiness? The most simple things. Like for me, I love plants a lot. That brings me happiness. If I see plants, if I'm walking down the sidewalk, like just today, Brother Billy and Sister Julie took us on a tour, and I saw a shop full of houseplants, and I was just staring there going, I wish I could take some home. There's that greed there too, right? Oh, that's this desire. But the moment I see these plants, it's just like this, so beautiful. What are the things that bring you joy? Pets, yes, that's easy. Yeah, they're easy to love. Anyone like to share? What brings you joy? Anything? Food? Food? Yeah? I like chocolate. Sometimes when I'm like, oh, my head hurts, so I need some chocolate right now. Or ice cream. How about you?
Visiting foreign countries.
Visiting, traveling. Yeah. So think about that for a moment. I invite you to close your eyes just for a moment. And these things, your favorite thing, whatever food it is, or if there's a place that you want to travel to in your bucket list, or if you have a pet that brings up this joy. So I invite you to close your eyes right now and bring to mind that particular thing that you just shared right now. What it is that brings you joy. Bring that image to mind. Take a few breaths. Deep, long, soft breaths. And as you bring to mind this being or this particular situation, notice how you feel in your body. It doesn't have to be any particular way. It can be anything that comes up. Maybe there's a sense of opening, maybe some tingling. Or maybe you don't feel much of anything. That's okay too. Good. And then if there is something that you're feeling, see if you can really tap into that, connect with that feeling. See where you're feeling it in your body. And if you're feeling it in any particular part of your body, you might place your hand there. Wherever that might be your chest or your belly or your cheek. Take a few breaths. And see if you can live in that feeling. Just for this moment, right now. Good. You can Release your hand. If you're placing your hand somewhere on your body, you can rest your hands once again. Take another breath here. And if your eyes are closed, you can gently allow them to open. Oftentimes, like I said, we don't give much attention to these feelings. But they're accessible. So we can develop them. We can work toward feeling them more and more. And for me, like I said, we can be so serious about our practice that we're like, oh, well, we should not dwell in the happiness because life is suffering and painful. But remember that the practice is about finding true happiness. So we should not ignore the experience of this joy, the love. We need to live in them a little bit more. We need to celebrate them a little bit more. That way, we know when it's present. It's easy to know when there's sadness that's present or anger. Those are very loud. Then the more subtle or not so often looked at experiences of these positive emotions, when you notice, ease and calm is here. Let me be there. Let me dwell in that right now. As long as it lasts. The reason why we end up suffering even when the pleasure comes is because we're grasping so hard to keep it going. We forgot that impermanence is also very true in our experience, anicca. So when there's happiness, know that that's also impermanent. So it's okay to experience it. Be with it, enjoy it, and celebrate it. That's my invitation. Because the more that we feel it, the more, right, they say like it's the mala bead, for every moment that you're mindful, it might be just for a half a breath, but for every half a breath that you're mindful, you string up your mala bead and you can create an entire necklace. Same with these qualities of the heart. Oh, I feel happy. How long did it last? 24 seconds. That's okay. Let me add that to my string on my mala. Again, another one. That's another way to celebrate. Before you know it, you have experienced it because now you know this is how it feels. This is how it feels in my body, and this is the way that it impacts my mental health or my wellness, my mind. And with the cultivation of these positive emotions, you will notice that, everyone looks so beautiful and brilliant. And it will surprise you. It has happened to me. Back in the day when I didn't give up on public transportation, back home in the Philippines, I would wait in the heat of the sun, in the dust, for a long time for the bus to arrive. But I would stand there and I would recite the Metta Sutta over and over and over again. Silently, of course. And then when the bus arrived, I got up there and I'm walking down the aisle and I look at everyone and they were radiatingly beautiful. Some were missing teeth. But wow, that feeling, that heart opening just exploded in that moment. And I felt my entire body just abuzz. And I sat down and I had tears in my eyes because I thought, wow, where did that come from? And that's what I mean about being surprised. We keep working on it. It's difficult, but because it can be developed, we just do the practice, and one day you might have that surprising experience too. Because practice makes perfect. Would you rather practice being irritable and annoyed? Or would you rather be present, calm, appreciative, light? Because that's what we're being asked to do, right? That's the path. The path is supposed to lead us to true happiness.
Were you just reciting it, or were you actually contemplating on the meaning of this repetitive?
Yes, okay. So there are times where I would recite the Metta Sutta, and because I'm familiar with the meaning, it's really inherent already as I'm reciting it. And it's funny because I really like to sing a lot, so that already brings up a lot of joy in my heart. But there's times when I also just simply recite these phrases of wishing myself and others well. May I be happy. May all beings be happy. And I'll recite that over and over. And I found this very helpful, especially when I'm caught up in traffic and I'm driving, because I get really not nice. Yeah. So I thought, well, I think I need to tap into this practice right now, because I'm not really the best version of myself in this moment. And, very often I'm really just harming myself because, well, I could honk my horn as many times as I want to, but it's not affecting people. Yeah, but then there's also swear words that come up sometimes, right? I mean, come on, let's be real. Yeah. Right. So then rather than getting caught up in that, because the moment that we get irritated by someone that, we can't control what they're doing anyway. They're driving their own cars. So getting caught up in all of that, then I might as well just do something that's useful and beneficial and that's going to get me closer to my goal. Let me keep walking this path. And then there's times that I completely scrap that and forget about it, and then I just, never mind, I'm just going to be really angry for the rest of the ride, But that's where mindfulness comes in, because that's a reminder. Mindfulness is about remembering. And sometimes when we get already caught up on that train of irritation, it's hard to get off, right? Especially because it just goes really fast. We don't know. One thing will trigger, and then suddenly, less than a second later, you're already on a speeding train to destruction. But remember, and that's why we keep practicing it, because the more that we practice, maybe that will give us the access to pause, and not jump on a speeding train right away, but maybe, this train is a little slower, and then it might give us a little bit of space and time to think, oh, well, hold on a minute. I can feel my body already getting tight. I can feel my head heating up. So in the Philippines, what we call people that are angry, or when we describe anger as Filipinos, we say, mainit ang ulo. Mainit ang ulo ko. My head is hot. It's literally the sensation of anger that we talk about. Burning up. The ears get hot, right? It's the heat. That's that passion also that we feel, right? So when you notice, I feel this sensation, and this is the mindfulness practice, right? With the Satipatthana, right? The 4 foundations of mindfulness, we've got mindfulness of the body. So when that sensation arises and you're already familiar with that, my head is heating up. Okay, hold on, let me take a breath. Then maybe the train will slow down enough that you can get off, take a walk, get some fresh air. Because our happiness is also reliant on how we relate to others. Our happiness is reliant on whether or not we're causing harm. And if we're causing harm, we're inevitably going to walk around with guilt and shame. That doesn't feel good. So our precepts, our ethics are also very key to our experience of joy. Because when you're guilty or shameful, and if you know that you've caused harm, it's very, very difficult to be with yourself. And it's very difficult to access these positive emotions. Because of course, again, our mind's tendency is to be biased toward the negative, and then we'll ruminate and we'll repeat over and over what we said or what we did. And that doesn't feel good. So we need to also be strong with our foundation, with our sila. So what I was trying to actually get to with this slide, sorry, I went off on a tangent. We don't give a lecture and tell people how they should be happy. We model it. We live it. And then when people notice the changes in us, they will want to know, what are you doing differently? You've changed. What is it? Can you tell me? I'd like to be happier too. Because, right, that's what we all want. Buddhist or not, the Buddha said, suffering is a part of life, but there is a cessation. And ultimately, he knows everyone wants to be happy. So we model it. And then we also create the environment that whenever people are around us, they're happy too, without you having to do anything. So that we can also talk about karma, or cause and effect. So the Brahma Viharas can be effective means to happiness. We need to strengthen them so that we are creating the conditions for more happiness in the future. That's right now, we're creating the karma so that maybe next week I'll be happier. And that's with also the wise or the right intention, right? And the clarity can come with also the mindfulness practice. When we are clear in our minds, in our hearts, we will know what it will take for us to continue to be happy. And that is only now. We have this capacity right now to make these changes and create these conditions. Not tomorrow. Why wait? So these are the words of Venerable Dhammananda. The middle way is the path of moderation, the path of balance. We're warned to avoid abandoning ourselves to pleasure-seeking life and the unbridled gratification of the senses. And what that means is that we're being asked not to get so caught up in the sensual pleasures that are dependent on the external experience, material, or I'm only going to be happy if I find the right partner. Or I'm only going to be happy when my job is this way. Or my house is bigger. Or I have a really nice car. So the sensual experience is something that we fall so reliant on, especially nowadays, because it's instant gratification now with the modern technology, especially with social media. How many likes did I get for this post? Our happiness is relying on that. We post it and then we're watching. Wait, how many? I have 20. Maybe by tomorrow when I wake up, I'll have 96 likes on my post. That would be so great, and I'll be really happy. Or, yeah, you wake up in the morning and it's like, what, 21? What else can I post today that maybe, I'll get the attention? Attention that I think I deserve, or that will make me feel like I'm worthy or I'm appreciated. So the pleasure that we seek is always from outside. Again, this practice is about coming back in and knowing that this joy, the love, this harmony, and even this sense of our heart breaks because we want to be of service to others. Because we care about the world. It's all there. And sometimes it's not. But the practice is there. So we can cultivate. And then the middle path, on the other hand, is also telling us that we should avoid a useless life of painful and unnecessary austerity or asceticism. Sorry. So we're not supposed to beat ourselves up. I mean, I think that in the modern world, or, and there's places like India where you'll find a lot of ascetics. And then there's also some people, maybe all over the world, that do that. But what are some of the ways that we create pain for ourselves, knowingly or unknowingly? Is the way that we criticize ourselves. We judge ourselves. We're not good enough. We're not worthy. And that's invisible pain, but it's really, really causing a lot of suffering. It's so unnecessary, and I think that that's one of the ways that this shows up in these modern times. We don't need to do that. We don't need to make this path arduous and a painful experience, so that we can put our medals on ourselves. Oh, I was really good because I was able to endure this much pain. It's not about that. Our strength is not measured by the amount of suffering that we're able to overcome. So if you want to live in this world peacefully and happily, allow others to also live peacefully and happily, so that you can make this world something which is worthy of life. Creating space for others as well. So if you act according to moral principles by upholding human dignity, you can create your own heaven right here in this world. Rather than striving for the next life to be reborn in the heavenly realms, perhaps, why wait? You can create it right now. Despite the fact that the world is the way it is. No matter the circumstances, you can still create heaven right now with this breath. Right now, when I see my granddaughter smile. Or right now, I see my puppy running toward me. Or right now, oh, this plate full of food, I'm so grateful. Because, you know, they eat really well in the heavenly realms too, right? So, it's here, it's right here in this moment. So the secret of happy, successful living is to do what needs to be done now and not worry about the past and the future. There's only this present moment that we have this conscious control over our happiness. The past is gone, the future is not here yet, and we create the conditions for a happier life right here, right now. So let's practice. I invite you to get in a comfortable posture. If you can, touch the floor, place your feet on the floor so that you feel really supported. You can scoot a little slightly toward the front of your chair so that your feet are really connecting. And then also lift the spine so that you're awake and alert. Place your hands and rest them on your lap. And whichever way you can, there's a lot of Buddha images. You can use whatever gesture. Whatever feels comfortable. I invite you to roll your shoulders back and down. And then let your elbows feel heavy as if they're falling toward the floor. Feel your feet touching the floor, closing your eyes. Take a few deep, long breaths. Know that you're breathing in long and breathing out long. And when you're ready, allowing for the breath to settle into its normal, natural rhythm. Sensing into your body, breathing. You might feel the breath cool as it comes in, and a little warmer as it comes out. Finding a specific place in your body where you can sense the breath the most. Might be your upper lip, between your nostrils. You might sense into the tingling and the swirling sensation of the breath at the back of your throat. Or the expansion, the relaxation of your chest. Your belly rising and falling. Know that you're breathing. And if you feel some tightness or some tension in any part of your body, you might bring your breath to those places. Create some space, releasing, loosening, softening, getting comfortable here. And letting the weight of your body be fully supported by the seat underneath you and the floor. Sense into the hardness of the floor, the strength of the floor underneath. And then ultimately the earth below us. The earth below us, that ultimate mother that protects her child, her only child, you. Let yourself relax into that embrace, into that holding. Breathe. If you'd like to, you can place your hand on your heart, maybe even both hands on your heart. As you do so, you might feel the breath really enveloping your heart. Create some space there. And as you do so, I invite you to bring an image of yourself into your mind. It might be an image of the person that you are right now, or if it's more comfortable for you, you might imagine yourself as a child. Bringing that image of yourself from your head down into your heart. Breathe. And reciting these phrases to yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy and strong. May I be safe and protected. May my life flow with ease. And repeating these phrases over again in your mind, you might also choose to use your own words. Like, may I love myself just as I am. Whatever resonates with you, any word that brings up this feeling of kindness toward yourself, wishing yourself well. May I be happy. May I be healthy and strong. May I be safe and protected. May my life flow with ease. We'll take a few moments in silence as you repeat these phrases and wish yourself well. knowing that you're held, supported, and that it's okay to want to be happy. That you deserve to be happy. Now I invite you to take a deep, long breath, breathing again into your heart space, creating space in your heart and around your heart. And this time we're going to create enough space to hold all beings. All beings. And as far as you can imagine, all beings to your right, all beings to your left, all beings to the front of you, behind you, below you, and above. All beings that crawl, that walk, that swim, that fly. All beings that we can see and those that we can't. And even beings that we don't know. All beings everywhere without exception. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy and strong. May all beings be safe and protected. May all beings know peace. And repeating these phrases or whatever words most resonate with you right now. Sending out metta. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy and strong. May all beings have food, shelter, medicine. May all beings be safe and protected. May all beings know peace. And repeating these words for the next few moments as we sit in silence. Whatever emotions are arising for you right now, allow yourself to be present. Radiating love, kindness, wishes for well-being to all, including yourself. I invite you now to take another deep, long breath. See if you can bring this breath again to your heart space. And as you come to natural breathing, just noticing how you're feeling right now. What's present for you in your heart, your mind, your body? Breathe. With this next breath, I invite you to bring your hand back down to relax on your lap. You might wiggle your toes and your fingers and bring some movement back again to your body. Take a deep breath and stretch your body in whatever way it needs right now, and taking care of your body, and perhaps you can appreciate it a little bit more right now. And if your eyes are closed, take your time. You can gently allow them to open. Thank you so much for your practice. We have time for questions. Any reflections, perhaps? Anything surprise you? Was there anything that stood out for you?
Really to practice it is difficult, isn't it?
It is. It's really difficult. So the question was, how do you bring equanimity to practice in daily life? And it is very difficult because our lives or the world out there is not conducive for this, to be even keeled. There's a lot going on in the world, and there's a lot going on in our lives, and it's so easy to get taken away, especially because there's so much pressure that we're dealing with right now. For me personally, of course, I can't say that I have all the answers. And for me, based on my own personal experience, I just remind myself that it's not going to last forever. That it's going to get better. Yeah. And I trust in the goodness that I have created in my life by means of having my sila as best as I can. Of course, I'm not perfect. I'm still practicing. But I think ultimately for me, I can trust in that I know that whatever is happening in this moment that's challenging me, it's going to change, and that I have the capacity to create this life right now and make the changes. And that comes with wise effort, wise action and wise effort. So coming back again to the Noble Eightfold Path. So what are the steps? Because he already laid it out, right? You have the right understanding. Know what's causing, what's the root of this problem, of this pain. And then find out, okay, well, if that's the root, how then do I create the conditions for at least the easing of this complication, whatever that may be. But yeah, it's always, this will pass. This too will pass. that might make things a little softer, maybe a little, might not be so noticeable, but it's just like, okay. And I think that gets paired with mindfulness, because then mindfulness helps us to remember that it's impermanent. And that's the thing that I love so much about this practice, because it's not just one answer. It's always this thing that's like so integrated. You know, it's so profound. It's like, okay, well, that's not just this answer, because it's this part of the Dhamma. You know, it's a Noble Eightfold Path, and it's my Sila, and it's my mindfulness, and, you know, and it's like cultivating some of the Bojjhangas, perhaps, that wise energy, so that I don't give up. Yeah. Which one? Yeah. Well, see, this is
very big, you know, the jigsaw is gonna put the pieces together.
correct. That's why it doesn't stay here. We gotta bring it to action. We gotta create, we have to live the Dhamma. It doesn't stay here. We need to be able to apply it. And when we have a certain level of practice where we're clear, then we don't have to think so hard, because the answer comes. That's why it's insight. Right? It's intuitive. But ultimately, you know, I mean, what does it come down to? It's like, yeah, what's the root? What's the cause? And then how do I come back again to a sense of harmony in my life? Balance is a little weird, you know, how do you achieve balance in an impermanent world? No, I don't know. I don't think that even forest monks can achieve that, because there are so many uncomfortable conditions when you live out there. Insects, you can get sick, infections, parasites. I mean, they deal with a lot of things too. And most of all, they have to really face themselves. I mean, I'm not diminishing our lives at all. We have also really complicated lives as lay people, probably a lot more. But, you know, we also have this privilege of not looking more deeply at our inner world, because there's so much distraction. And sometimes that's even harder. There's a saying, I don't remember her name, who said this, but being with my mind is like walking in a dark alley. I don't like to go there alone. So you never know what's lurking in the darkness. So this modern lay life is a great excuse not to have to go there. But monks, if you're in the forest, there's no escape. So yeah, I think we all have it, you know, a little hard. Yes, thank you so much for having me. And really, I'm really humbled to be here. And thank you for coming and spending time. I thought, well, it's okay, I don't mind if nobody shows up, but really I did. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you.